Hey guys, ever think you could handle life as a Stone Age caveman? Think again. Imagine waking up every morning on a bed of scratchy grass that's gone damp overnight, with fleas hopping across your chest like they're training for some marathon. Your breakfast isn't toast and coffee. It's whatever you can catch with your bare hands, assuming the thing you're chasing doesn't decide to bite back first. Your toilet is a bush. Your shower is a freezing river that might have a snake in it. And your career? Hunting massive animals that could eat you, or gathering roots that could sting you. Every single day. No weekends, no sick leave. Just survival, sweat, and the constant nagging worry that you might become someone else's dinner instead of the other way around. If you're enjoying this already, hit that like button and subscribe for more historical reality checks. And tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I'm genuinely curious to know where in the world you are. So let's step into the world of a Stone Age caveman and find out exactly why you wouldn't last a single day. Your day starts when the sun drags itself over the horizon, which sounds peaceful until you realise there's no curtains, no alarm you can snooze, and absolutely no lying in bed scrolling through your phone for 20 minutes, pretending you'll get up soon. The light just arrives and that's it. Time to move. Except you're not exactly refreshed. You've spent the night on the floor of a cave or a rough shelter made from branches and animal skins. The ground beneath you is hard as concrete, only lumpier, and there's probably a rock jabbing into your hip that you were too exhausted to move last night. Your neck's stiff, your back seized up, and you've got what feels like 1,000 tiny bites all over your body because the wildlife didn't just stay outside. It joined you for the evening. Fleas are everywhere. They live in the animal furs you're sleeping on. They live in your hair. They live in the gaps between the stones in the cave. You can feel them moving. It's like having 100 tiny roommates who only come out at night and whose sole hobby is making you itch. Scratching doesn't help. It just spreads the irritation around and makes your skin raw. You'd kill for some soap or a hot bath, or literally any product from a pharmacy. But those things won't exist for thousands of years. So you scratch, you suffer, and you try not to think about it, which is impossible because the itching never stops. You stand up and your joints crack like someone snapping dry twigs. Everything hurts. Your knees are sore from squatting all day yesterday. Your shoulders ache from carrying heavy loads. Your feet are bruised from walking barefoot over rocks and roots and the occasional thorn that went straight through your soul like a tiny spear. You don't have shoes. Well, maybe you've got some rough hide wrapped around your feet if you're lucky. But it's not exactly trainers. It's more like wearing 2 thin leather bags that do almost nothing to cushion your step. Every pebble, every stick, every uneven surface goes straight into the bottom of your foot. By midday, your feet feel like they've been tenderized with a mallet. Breakfast is not a meal you look forward to. There's no fridge, no cupboard, no corner shop you can nip down to for a pastry. If you want to eat, you need to find food. Right now, this morning, before your stomach starts gnawing on itself. Maybe there's some leftovers from yesterday's hunt if you're incredibly fortunate. A chunk of meat that's been sitting out overnight, getting chewed on by insects and starting to smell a bit funky. You brush off the worst of the bugs and eat it anyway, because wasting food isn't an option. It tastes like it's been marinated in dust and regret. The texture is chewy in the bad way, the kind that makes your jaw tired. But it's protein, so down it goes. If there's no leftovers, you're foraging. That means walking out into the wilderness and looking for anything edible. Roots, nuts, berries, mushrooms if you're brave and know which ones won't make you violently ill. The problem is that most of these things taste absolutely dreadful. Roots are woody and bitter. Berries are either sour enough to make your face pucker, or so bland they might as well be crunchy water. Nuts are fine if you can crack them open, but good luck doing that without proper tools. You end up smashing them between two rocks and hoping your fingers don't get in the way. Half the time you lose the nut meat in the dirt and have to pick grit out of your teeth for the next hour. And mushrooms? Forget it. Unless you're absolutely certain you know what you're picking, mushrooms are a gamble with your digestive system. Some are fine. Some will give you cramps that feel like your stomach's trying to escape through your belly button. And some will do much worse. So you stick to the ones you recognize, and even then, you're never completely confident. Every bite is a little bit of a risk. You chew, you swallow, and you wait to see if your body is going to accept it, or stage a full revolt. Thirst is another constant nag. You need water, but you can't just turn on a tap. You have to go find it. That means trekking to the nearest stream or river or pond, which might be a decent walk depending on where you've set up camp. And when you get there, the water's not exactly sparkling clean. It's murky. There's bits floating in it, bugs skating on the surface, possibly some larger animal upstream doing something you'd rather not think about. But you're thirsty, so you scoop up a handful and drink it anyway. It tastes like wet dirt with a hint of something metallic. You try not to dwell on it. You certainly try not to look too closely at what's swirling around in there. Once you've choked down breakfast and sorted out your thirst, it's time to get to work. And by work, we mean the kind of labour that would make a modern gym session look like a gentle warm-up. If you're hunting today, you're spending hours tracking animals through rough terrain. You're crouched low, moving slowly, trying not to make a sound. Your thighs are screaming, your back's cramping, your knees are grinding like old machinery. And you're doing this for hours, not minutes, hours. Because animals don't just stand around waiting to be caught. They run, they hide. They're much better at this than you are. When you finally spot something worth hunting, the real fun begins. You've got a spear maybe, or a rock tied to a stick. Your weapons are basic, handmade, and not exactly precision instruments. Throwing a spear at a moving animal is hard, really hard. You miss more often than you hit, and when you do hit, it's rarely a clean kill. Now, you're chasing a wounded animal through the brush, trying to keep up, getting scratched by branches and tripping over roots, while the thing you're hunting drags itself into the thickest, nastiest part of the forest it can find. You're sweating, you're gasping for air, your legs feel like they're made of wet sand, and you can't give up, because if you lose this animal, you've wasted hours and you've got nothing to show for it. If you do manage to bring something down, congratulations. Now you have to carry it back, and animals are heavy, shockingly heavy. A deer weighs as much as a full-grown adult human, and you're expected to haul it back to camp on your shoulders. No wheelbarrow, no cart, just you, your aching back, and a dead weight that seems to get heavier with every step. Your shoulders go numb, your neck feels like it's being crushed. You have to stop every few minutes to rest, gasping and sweating, while the carcass presses into your spine and the smell of fresh kill fills your nostrils. Butchering an animal without modern tools is an absolute nightmare. You're crouched over a carcass with a sharp stone in your hand, trying to slice through hide that's thicker than leather and tougher than anything you've ever tried to cut. Your stone blade isn't exactly surgical quality. It's a rock you've chipped and shaped until it has a vaguely sharp edge, and it goes dull fast. So you're sawing away, putting your whole body weight into it and making almost no progress. Your wrist starts to ache. Your fingers cramp. Your forearm feels like it's on fire, and you've barely made it through the outer layer. Once you finally get through the hide, you're dealing with flesh and fat and sinew. Everything's slippery. Your hands are covered in grease and bits of tissue that stick to your skin like glue. You try to wipe them off on the grass, but that just smears it around. Now you've got bits of animal stuck under your fingernails, ground into the creases of your palms, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. No sink, no soap, no hot water. You're just greasy and disgusting for the rest of the day, and probably tomorrow too. The fat is the worst part. It's slick and slimy and gets everywhere. It coats your hands, your arms, your tools. It drips onto your legs. If you're not careful, it gets in your hair. And the smell is overpowering. It's rich and thick and heavy, the kind of smell that sits in your nose and won't leave. You'll be smelling it for days. Even after the meat's been cooked and eaten, it soaks into everything. Your skin, your clothes, the ground around you. There's no escaping it. Cooking the meat is another adventure. You don't have a stove or an oven or even a proper pan. You've got fire, assuming you can get one started, and that's about it. Starting a fire without matches or a lighter is monumentally difficult. You're rubbing sticks together or striking rocks, trying to create a spark that will catch on some dry moss or grass you've prepared. It takes forever. Your hands blister, your arms get tired, and just when you think you've got a tiny ember going, a breeze comes along and snuffs it out. So, you start again, and again, and again, until finally, mercifully, you get a flame. Once the fire's going, you have to keep it going. That means constantly feeding it wood, making sure it doesn't go out, and hoping the wind doesn't shift and blow smoke directly into your face. Spoiler alert, the smoke always finds you. It doesn't matter where you sit or how you position yourself. The smoke follows you like it's got a personal grudge. Your eyes water, your throat burns, you're coughing and sputtering, trying to breathe through the choking haze while also making sure your precious fire doesn't die. It's miserable. When it comes to actually cooking the meat, you're essentially just holding it over the fire on a stick and hoping for the best. There's no temperature control, no timer, no way to tell if it's done except by poking it and guessing. The outside gets charred and blackened while the inside's still a bit dodgy. You eat it anyway because you're starving and you've worked too hard to be picky. It tastes like smoke and char with a chewy, slightly suspect center. But it's hot, it's filling, and it's yours. That counts for something. If you're not hunting, you're gathering. And gathering sounds easy until you actually have to do it. You're walking for hours, bent over, scanning the ground for anything edible. Your back starts to hurt from being hunched all day. Your neck gets stiff. Your eyes get tired from staring at dirt and leaves and rocks. And most of what you find is either tiny, hard to reach, or tastes like crunchy sadness. You're digging up roots with a stick, which takes ages. You're climbing trees to get at nuts, risking a fall that could sprain your ankle or worse. You're wading through bushes full of thorns that scratch your arms and legs to ribbons. The haul you bring back after a full day of gathering is pathetically small, maybe enough to fill a rough bag made of woven grass or animal hide. It weighs next to nothing, but you're exhausted anyway, because you've been walking and bending and digging and climbing since sunrise. Your feet are blistered, your hands are scratched, your legs ache, and when you finally sit down to sort through what you've collected, half of it turns out to be inedible or spoiled, or not worth the effort. So you toss it aside and make do with what's left. Water remains a constant chore. You can't just fill a bottle and carry it with you. Bottles don't exist. You've got a crude container made from a hollowed out gourd, or maybe a section of animal stomach if you're particularly resourceful, and don't mind the lingering taste of whatever that stomach used to digest. Either way, it's not watertight, it's not convenient, and it doesn't hold much, so you're making multiple trips to the water source every single day. Walking there, scooping up murky water, walking back, over and over, Your legs are tired, your arms are tired, everything's tired, and the water situation doesn't get better. You're drinking from rivers that animals wade through, streams that collect runoff from who knows where, ponds that are basically just big puddles with ambitions. There's algae growing on the surface, bugs laying eggs in it, dead leaves rotting at the bottom. You scoop it up and drink it anyway because the alternative is dying of thirst. Sometimes your stomach handles it fine, sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, you spend the next day squatting in the bushes with cramps that feel like your insides are being wrung out like a wet rag. But there's no medicine, no remedy, nothing you can take to make it stop. You just suffer through it and hope it passes. Hygiene is a distant dream. You don't bathe regularly because bathing means getting into cold water that might be home to things that bite. When you do wash, it's a quick, miserable dip in a freezing stream that leaves you shivering and covered in goosebumps. You don't have soap, so you're basically just rinsing off the top layer of grime and hoping that's enough. It's not. You still smell. Your hair's a greasy, matted mess full of tangles, and probably a few residents you'd rather not think about. Your skin's caked with dirt that's ground into every pore. Your fingernails are black crescents of filth that you can't clean no matter how hard you try. Your teeth are another horror show. There's no toothbrush, no toothpaste, no floss. You're eating rough, gritty food that wears down your enamel and gets stuck between your teeth. Bits of meat lodge in the gaps and stay there, rotting slowly, making your breath smell like a skip bin in summer. Your gums get sore and swollen, your teeth ache, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. No dentist, no painkillers. If a tooth goes bad, you're stuck with the pain until it either falls out or you get desperate enough to try yanking it yourself with your bare hands, which is every bit as awful as it sounds. Your clothes, if you can call them that, are barely functional. You're wearing animal skins that have been roughly scraped and dried. They're stiff, scratchy, and smell like the animal they came from. They don't fit properly. There's no tailoring, no buttons, no zips. They're just draped over you and tied in place with strips of leather or sinew. They chafe, they rub, they create sore spots on your shoulders, your hips, anywhere they make contact with your skin. And they don't keep you particularly warm or particularly cool. They're just there, being uncomfortable, reminding you with every step that modern clothing is a miracle you've taken for granted your entire life. Sleeping is never comfortable. Not once, not ever. You're lying on the ground with maybe some dried grass or a pile of leaves under you if you've bothered to prepare a sleeping spot, which you often don't because you're too exhausted by the end of the day to care. The ground is freezing cold at night, even in warmer months. The chill seeps into your bones. You curl up tight, trying to conserve body heat, but it doesn't help much. You're shivering, teeth chattering, wishing desperately for a blanket or a duvet or literally any scrap of warmth. The animal skin you're using as a cover is thin, patchy, and does almost nothing to keep the cold out. You can hear everything at night, every rustle, every snap of a twig, every distant howl, and you don't know what's out there. Could be something harmless, could be something very much not harmless. Your brain won't let you relax. You're lying there, eyes wide open, ears straining, wondering if that noise was just the wind or if something's creeping closer. Sleep comes in short, fitful bursts. You doze off for a bit, then jerk awake at some sound, heart pounding, fully convinced something's about to pounce on you. Then you realize it's nothing. You lie back down, and the cycle starts again. Insects are your constant nighttime companions. Mosquitoes buzz around your ears in an endless, high-pitched whine that drives you absolutely mental. They bite you. A lot. Your arms, your face, your neck, anywhere skin is exposed. Each bite swells into an itchy lump that you scratch until it's raw, which only makes it worse. Then there's beetles and spiders and things you can't identify, crawling over you while you sleep. You wake up with mystery bites and unexplained rashes, itchy patches that you can't stop scratching, even though you know you should. It's torture. If you're sharing shelter with others, the noise is unbelievable. Snoring, grunting, shuffling around in the dark. Someone's always moving, always making some kind of racket. You're trying to sleep, and someone 3 feet away is snoring like a broken engine. You want to kick them, but you're too tired and too cold to move. So you just lie there, stewing in silent frustration, waiting for morning. And when morning finally comes, you feel like you haven't slept at all. You're groggy, sore, and already dreading the day ahead. The lack of privacy is maddening. There's no personal space, no separate rooms, no doors you can close. Everyone's just crammed together in one shelter or one cave, living on top of each other. You can hear everything everyone else does. You can smell them. You're constantly aware of other people's presence, their noises, their smells, their movements. It's like being on the world's most uncomfortable camping trip that never, ever ends. You'd give anything for a room of your own, a door with a lock, a bit of peace and quiet. But that's not happening. Not here. Not now. Going to the toilet is a degrading experience every single time. There's no bathroom, no toilet, not even an outhouse. You just walk a little way from camp, find a bush or a tree, squat down and do your business. The position is uncomfortable. Your thighs burn, your knees ache, and there's nothing to clean yourself with afterwards. You use leaves if you can find any that aren't too scratchy or covered in bugs. Sometimes you use moss, sometimes you just don't. You stand up, adjust your clothes, and try not to think about it too hard. But you feel grimy and uncomfortable for the rest of the day. And it's not a quick process either. Your diet of rough meat and fibrous roots means your digestion is a constant battle. Everything takes longer. Nothing's comfortable. You're squatting there, struggling, while mosquitoes bite your exposed backside, and you pray no one else decides to wander over. It's humiliating. It's uncomfortable, and you have to do it multiple times a day. There's no holding it in, no waiting for a better time. When nature calls, you go, immediately, wherever you happen to be. The smell around camp is a constant assault. There's the smell of unwashed bodies, the smell of old meat slowly going off in the heat, the smell of smoke from the fire that never quite goes out, the smell of hides being scraped and dried, the smell of the toilet area, which is close enough to camp that you're always vaguely aware of it. All of these smells blend together into a thick, musty, meaty funk that clings to everything. You can't escape it. It's in your hair, your clothes, your shelter. After a while, you stop noticing it as much, which is either a blessing or a sign that you've completely given up on the concept of freshness. Your hands are constantly damaged. You're using them for everything. Digging, scraping, cutting, carrying, building. And you're doing all of this without gloves. Your palms are covered in blisters that burst and form calluses. Your fingers are scratched and scraped. Your knuckles are bruised from gripping tools that aren't designed for comfort. Splinters are a constant problem. You get them from handling wood, and they lodge deep under your skin where you can't reach them. They fester and ache and throb until eventually your body pushes them out, or they work their way deeper and become a permanent reminder of that time you tried to build a better shelter. Building anything is exhausting. You need firewood, so you're breaking branches, hauling logs, stacking piles of wood. You need to repair your shelter, so you're gathering saplings, weaving them together, packing mud into gaps. Every task is manual labor. Every task takes forever, and you're doing it all with the most basic tools imaginable. A sharp rock, a stick, Your bare hands, no power tools, no hardware store, just you and the raw materials and a whole lot of effort. Your body is always sore. There's not a single day where something doesn't hurt. Your muscles ache from constant use. Your joints are stiff. Your feet are bruised and blistered. Your back's thrown out from lifting and carrying. Your shoulders are tight from stress and tension. And there's no relief, no hot bath, no massage, no painkillers. You just live with it. You wake up sore. You work all day sore. You go to bed sore. It's the baseline. Pain is just part of existence now. Injuries are terrifying because there's no medical care. If you cut yourself, you press some moss or leaves against it and hope it stops on its own. If you twist your ankle, you limp around and try to stay off it, but you can't really rest because there's still work to be done. If you get a deep gash, you're in serious trouble. It might get infected. It might not heal properly. You might end up with a nasty scar or a permanent limp or worse. Every injury, no matter how small, carries the risk of turning into something major. So you're constantly careful, constantly aware of your body, constantly worried that one wrong move could be the end of you. The fear is always there, sitting in the back of your mind. You're not at the top of the food chain, not even close. There are animals out there that are bigger, faster, and much more dangerous than you. You've got your little group, your basic weapons, and your wits. That's it. When you hear something large moving through the brush, your heart starts pounding. When you see tracks you don't recognize, you get nervous. You're prey as much as you are predator, and you know it. So you stay alert, you stay cautious, and you never, ever let your guard down completely. Even other groups of people are a potential threat. Resources are scarce, territory matters. If another group decides they want the area you're in, there's going to be conflict. And conflict in the Stone Age isn't a polite disagreement. It's brutal and direct. You don't have the numbers or the weapons to feel safe. Every stranger is a potential danger. Every unfamiliar face could mean trouble. So you keep to your group, you defend your territory, and you hope you don't run into anyone looking for a fight. The weather controls your entire existence. When it's hot, you're roasting. There's no shade except under trees, and even that's not much relief. The sun beats down on you all day, relentless and brutal. You sweat constantly. Not the light perspiration you get from a short walk, but full body, dripping, sticky sweat that soaks through whatever you're wearing and runs into your eyes. It stings. It makes everything slippery. Your grip on tools fails because your hands are so slick. You wipe your forehead with your arm and it does nothing because your arm's just as wet. Dehydration is a real danger when it's hot. You're drinking constantly, but you're losing moisture faster than you can replace it. Your mouth feels like it's full of sand. Your lips crack and peel. Your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth. You get dizzy if you stand up too fast. Your head pounds with a dull, throbbing ache that won't go away, no matter how much murky water you choke down. And the heat doesn't let up. It just grinds you down hour after hour until you're shuffling around in a daze, barely able to think straight. When it's cold, you're freezing. And Stone Age cold isn't just uncomfortable. It's bone-deep, relentless cold that makes you genuinely worry about whether you'll make it through the night. Your fire helps, but only if you're right next to it. Move a few feet away and you might as well be outside. The heat doesn't spread. It doesn't fill the space. It just radiates out in a small sphere, and if you're not in that sphere, you're shivering. Your teeth chatter so hard your jaw aches. Your fingers go numb. Your toes lose all feeling. You curl up as tight as you can, hugging yourself, trying to trap any scrap of warmth. Frostbite is a genuine threat. If your extremities get too cold for too long, they start to die. Your fingers turn white, then grey, then black. They stop hurting, which sounds like a relief until you realize that's a very bad sign. You lose fingers, you lose toes, you lose bits of your ears or your nose, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. No hospital, no treatment, just the cold reality that your body's shutting down piece by piece. So you do everything you can to stay warm. You huddle close to others. You keep the fire going all night, even though it means someone has to stay awake feeding it wood. You wrap yourself in every scrap of hide you can find, and you pray the cold snap doesn't last too long. Rain turns your life into a soggy nightmare. Everything gets wet. Your shelter leaks no matter how well you think you've built it. Drips find their way through gaps in the roof, landing on you while you sleep, soaking your bedding, turning your sleeping area into a cold, damp mess. Your fire sputters and smokes and refuses to stay lit. You spend half your time trying to shield it from the rain, hold in hides over it, move in burning sticks to drier spots, all while getting drenched yourself. Your clothes cling to your skin, heavy and cold. They chafe in new and exciting places, and they don't dry. Not properly. They just stay damp for days, slowly developing a mildew smell that makes you gag. The ground turns into a slick, muddy swamp. Every step is treacherous. You slip and slide, struggling to keep your balance. Mud cakes onto your feet, adding extra weight with every step. It sucks at your heels like it's trying to pull you down. Walking becomes exhausting. Your legs burn from the effort of slogging through the muck. And when you finally stop, you're covered from the knees down in thick, cold mud that's worked its way into every crevice. It's under your toenails. It's between your toes. It's stuck to your calves like a second skin. And there's no good way to get it off. You scrape at it with a stick, but it's stubborn. It clings. Eventually you just give up and accept that you're going to be muddy for the foreseeable future. Food becomes harder to find when the weather's bad. Animals hide. Plants die back. Everything retreats and waits for better conditions. But you can't wait. You still need to eat. So you're out there in the rain, in the cold, searching desperately for anything you can consume. You're digging in the mud for roots, hoping you find something before your fingers go completely numb. You're checking traps that are probably empty. You're scanning the ground for tracks, for signs, for anything that might lead you to a meal. And most of the time, you come back with nothing. Your stomach growls, your energy drains, and you go to bed hungry, again, hoping tomorrow will be better. Hunger is a constant companion. You're never truly full. There's no 3 square meals a day, no snacks, no raid in the fridge at midnight. You eat when you catch something or find something, and the rest of the time you're just hungry. It's a gnawing, persistent ache in your belly that never quite goes away. It makes you irritable. It makes you tired. It makes it hard to focus on anything other than food. You fantasize about eating. You dream about it. Every waking moment is tinged with the desire to put something, anything, in your mouth. When you do eat, you eat fast. There's no savoring your meal, no enjoying the flavors. You're shoveling food into your mouth as quickly as possible because you don't know when the next meal is coming. You barely chew. You swallow chunks that are too big and feel them scrape down your throat. Your stomach cramps from the sudden influx, but you don't stop. You keep eating until there's nothing left, and even then, you're eyeing everyone else's portion, wondering if they're going to finish, or if there might be scraps. The lack of variety in your diet is mind-numbing. You eat the same things over and over. Meat when you can get it, roots when you can't, berries if you're lucky, nuts if you can find them. That's it. No spices, no sauces, no seasoning of any kind. Everything tastes bland or bitter or just plain unpleasant. You eat because you have to, not because you want to. and after months of the same few foods, you'd do just about anything for something different. A piece of fruit you've never tried, a vegetable that isn't woody and gross, anything to break the monotony. Your stomach is never quite right. The combination of questionable water, rough food, and constant stress means your digestion is a mess. You're either constipated from a diet too heavy in meat, or you're dealing with the opposite problem from bad water, or something you ate that didn't agree with you. Your stomach cramps. It gurgles and rumbles at the most inconvenient times. You feel bloated and uncomfortable, or you feel empty and hollow. There's no middle ground, and there's nothing you can take to settle it. No antacids, no remedies. You just suffer through and hope it sorts itself out. The physical toll of constant labor is staggering. You're not doing a workout for an hour and then resting. You're working from sunrise to sunset every single day. Hauling, lifting, digging, walking, climbing, building. Your muscles are in a constant state of fatigue. They ache deep down, a bone-tired weariness that sleep barely touches. You wake up stiff and sore, work all day, and go to bed even stiffer and sorer. Over time, your body adapts a bit. You get stronger, your endurance improves, but you never stop being tired. The fatigue is cumulative, building day after day until you feel like you're moving through thick syrup. Your posture suffers. You're hunched over constantly, digging, scraping, butchering, preparing food. Your back curves. Your shoulders roll forward, your neck cranes at awkward angles, and there's no chiropractor, no physiotherapist, no one to tell you that you're wrecking your spine. You just keep doing what you have to do, and your body pays the price. By the time you're middle-aged, you're bent and crooked, moving like someone decades older, every step a reminder of the years of hard labor. The boredom is suffocating. There's no stimulation beyond the daily grind of survival. No books to read, no shows to watch, no music to listen to, no social media to scroll through mindlessly. Your brain is starved for input. You find yourself staring at the fire for hours, watching the flames flicker, because there's literally nothing else to do. Your thoughts start to loop. You think the same things over and over. You replay conversations, you relive hunts, you worry about tomorrow's food, and then you do it all again because there's nothing new to occupy your mind. Conversations are limited by the fact that no one has much to talk about. Everyone's doing the same things. Everyone's dealing with the same problems. There's no news to share, no gossip from other places, no interesting stories from outside your immediate experience. So you talk about practical matters. Where to hunt tomorrow, whether the shelter needs repairs, who's going to fetch water. It's functional communication, not social. You miss the pointless chats, the jokes, the random discussions about nothing in particular. But those require a level of mental energy and leisure time that simply don't exist here. Your language is limited too. You don't have words for abstract concepts or complex ideas. Your vocabulary revolves around immediate, practical things. Food, danger, shelter, fire. There's no poetry, no philosophy, no way to express the existential dread that's slowly building inside you. You feel things you can't articulate, frustrations you can't name, a longing for something more that you don't have the words to describe. It's like being trapped inside your own head, with no way to communicate what's really going on in there. Rituals and routines become incredibly important, because they're the only structure you have. You wake up, you eat, you work, you eat again if you're lucky, you tend the fire, you sleep, repeat. The sameness is both comforting and maddening. On one hand, it gives you a sense of stability. On the other hand, it highlights just how limited and repetitive your existence has become. Every day is the same. Every week is the same. The seasons change, but your routine doesn't. You're stuck in a loop with no variation, no excitement, no breaks from the monotony. The lack of comfort is relentless. There's no soft place to sit, no cushion, no chair, no couch. You're sitting on the ground, on rocks, on logs. Your backside goes numb, your lower back aches. You shift positions constantly, trying to find something that doesn't hurt, but there is no comfortable position. After a while, you just accept that sitting is going to be uncomfortable, and you stop trying to fix it. Same with lying down. The ground is hard, the surface is uneven. You're always aware of some rock or root digging into your side. You toss and turn, trying to find a position that works, but nothing really does. You just endure it. Your sense of time becomes vague. There's no clocks, no calendars, no way to mark the days with any precision. You track time by the sun, by the seasons, by the cycles of the moon. But it all blurs together. You lose track of how long you've been doing this. Days turn into weeks, turn into months. You can't remember exactly when something happened. Was it 2 moons ago? 3? You're not sure. Time stops having the same meaning it did in the modern world. It's just a relentless forward march with no markers, no milestones, nothing to break it up into manageable chunks. The lack of possessions is strange. You own almost nothing. A few tools, some hides, maybe a container or 2. That's it. Everything you have fits in your hands or can be carried on your back. There's no accumulation, no collection, no personal items that define you. You have nothing that's uniquely yours, nothing that expresses your personality or preferences. You're stripped down to the absolute basics. And while that might sound freeing, it's mostly just empty. You feel like a ghost, a generic human unit with no individuality, no personal history reflected in objects. You're just there. Injuries accumulate over time. You don't recover from things the way you would with modern medicine. That sprained ankle from last month still twinges when you walk. That cut on your hand healed, but it left a thick scar that pulls tight when you flex your fingers. That bruise on your shin took weeks to fade, and the spot still feels tender. Your body becomes a map of past damage, each mark a reminder of some accident or mishap. You move more carefully, more cautiously, because you know one more injury could be the one that breaks you. Parasites are a fact of life. You've got worms. Everyone's got worms. They live in your intestines, feeding off what you eat, making you even hungrier than you already are. You can sometimes feel them moving inside you, a disturbing, squirming sensation that makes your skin crawl. They sap your energy. They make you feel weak and tired even when you've had enough food. And there's no way to get rid of them. No medication, no treatment. They're just part of you now, unwelcome passengers along for the ride. Your hair is a disaster. It's long, matted, and full of tangles because you don't have a comb or a brush. You try to work the knots out with your fingers, but it's painful and mostly ineffective. You end up just leaving it, and over time it dreads and clumps together into thick ropes that are impossible to separate. It's heavy, it pulls on your scalp, it gets in your face constantly. But cutting it is difficult without proper tools, so you mostly just tie it back with a strip of leather and try to ignore it. And of course, it's full of bugs, little creatures that live in the warmth and feast on your scalp. You can feel them crawling. You scratch constantly, which only makes your scalp raw and sore. Your skin is rough and damaged. The sun beats down on you every day, burning you, weathering you. Your face gets leathery. Your hands are so calloused, they're almost like leather themselves. You've got scars everywhere, scratches from thorns, cuts from sharp rocks, burns from getting too close to the fire. Your skin cracks in the cold, especially on your hands and feet, creating painful fissures that take forever to heal. You look decades older than you actually are. The harsh conditions age you rapidly, wearing you down year by year. The constant vigilance is exhausting. You're always watching, always listening, always aware of your surroundings. You can't relax. You can't let your guard down. Even when you're sitting by the fire at night, you're scanning the darkness, listening for sounds that don't belong. Your nervous system is in a constant state of alert. It's like living with a low-level anxiety that never goes away. Your heart rate is always a bit elevated. Your muscles are always a bit tense. You're ready to run or fight at a moment's notice, and it's absolutely draining. Relationships are strained by the constant stress. You're too tired, too hungry, too uncomfortable to be your best self. You snap at people. You argue over small things. You hold grudges because there's no way to get away from the person who annoyed you. You're stuck with them day in and day out, and every little irritation builds up until you're ready to explode. But you can't, because you need each other to survive. So you swallow your anger, you force yourself to cooperate, and you try to keep the peace even when you'd rather scream. The lack of medical knowledge is terrifying. When someone gets sick or injured, no one really knows what to do. You try things. You press herbs onto wounds and hope they help. You keep the person warm. You give them water. But it's all guesswork. If someone develops a fever, you have no idea if they're going to recover or if this is the end. You sit with them, watch them suffer, and feel utterly helpless. And if they don't make it, there's no explanation, no understanding of what went wrong. They're just gone, and you're left wondering if there was something you could have done, knowing deep down that there probably wasn't. Foraging requires knowledge that takes years to accumulate, and even then you're never completely certain. You learn which plants are safe by watching others, by trial and error, by occasionally getting sick and barely surviving. You memorize the shapes of leaves, the colors of berries, the textures of roots. But plants can look similar. One type of berry is nutritious. Another type, almost identical, will give you cramps so severe you'll wish you were dead. You have to be absolutely sure before you put something in your mouth, and even then there's a nagging doubt. What if you misidentified it? What if this one plant is slightly different? You eat slowly, cautiously, waiting to see if your stomach rebels. Nuts are a relatively safe option, but they're hard to come by and even harder to access. You find a tree loaded with nuts, and you think you've hit the jackpot. Then you realize the nuts are encased in rock-hard shells that take forever to crack open. You're smashing them between stones, losing half the nut meat in the process, getting tiny shards of shell embedded in the food. You pick out what you can, but you inevitably end up eating some shell fragments. They scrape your throat on the way down and add to the general grittiness of your diet. But the nuts are filling, and they last. So you gather as many as you can carry, knowing they'll get you through lean times. Berries are seasonal, which means you feast when they're available and go without the rest of the year. When berry season arrives, it's a frenzy. Everyone's out picking, stuffing their faces, trying to consume as much as possible before the supply runs out. Your fingers get stained purple or red. Your stomach gets upset from eating too much too fast. But you don't stop because you know this abundance won't last. In a few weeks the berries will be gone, and you'll be back to digging up roots and chewing on whatever scraps you can find. So you make the most of it, even if it means spending the night with a stomachache. Hunting small animals is less prestigious than bringing down a deer, but it's often more practical. Rabbits, birds, rodents, anything that moves and looks edible. You set traps, which are crude contraptions made from sticks and vine. They work occasionally. Most of the time, whatever you're trying to catch is smarter than your trap and manages to steal the bait without getting caught. When you do catch something, it's usually small and not much meat, but it's fresh protein, and that counts for a lot. You cook it over the fire until it's charred and barely recognizable, then tear into it with your teeth, crunching through tiny bones and all. Fishing is an option if you're near water, but it requires patience you often don't have. You fashion a spear or a hook from bone and sit by the water, waiting and waiting and waiting. Fish are fast and slippery and they don't cooperate. You stab at the water, miss. Stab again, miss again. Your arm gets tired. Your eyes start playing tricks on you, making you see fish that aren't there. Occasionally you get lucky and spear something. You haul it out, thrashing and wriggling, and feel a surge of triumph. It's not a big fish. It's barely worth the effort. But it's food, and right now, that's all that matters. Preserving food is nearly impossible. You can't freeze it. You can't refrigerate it. You can dry meat by hanging it near the fire, but it takes ages and you have to constantly monitor it to make sure it doesn't get ruined by bugs or moisture. Dried meat is tough and chewy and tastes like salted leather, but it lasts. Sort of. It still goes off eventually, developing a funky smell and a questionable texture. You eat it anyway, because wasting food is not an option. You've worked too hard to let anything go to waste, even if it's halfway to rotting. Smoke helps preserve meat too, if you can keep a smoky fire going long enough. The meat absorbs the smoke, which gives it a strong, acrid flavour that's not exactly pleasant but does the job. Everything tastes like smoke. Your mouth, your throat, your clothes. You reek of it constantly. But smoked meat lasts longer than fresh, so you endure the process. You hang strips of meat over the fire, turning them occasionally, coughing through the thick haze, eyes streaming. It's miserable work, but it pays off when you have something to eat during a stretch of bad hunting. Salt is a precious commodity if you can find it. Natural salt deposits are rare, but if you're lucky enough to locate one, it's a game changer. You gather as much as you can carry, even though it's heavy and awkward. Salt preserves food, salt adds flavour. Salt is worth its weight in gold. You guard it carefully, use it sparingly, because you never know when you'll find more. A little sprinkle on some bland root vegetable makes it almost tolerable. A bit rubbed into meat keeps it from spoiling as quickly. It's one of the few luxuries you have, and you treasure it. Sharing food is a social obligation, but it's also a source of tension. You're expected to share your catch with the group. It's how everyone survives. But when you're the one who spent all day tracking and hunting, and someone who did nothing gets an equal portion, it stings. You don't say anything, because causing conflict is dangerous, but you resent it. You watch them eat what you worked for, and you feel a simmering frustration. Of course, when someone else brings in food and shares with you, you're grateful. It's a system that works, mostly, but it's not without its emotional toll. Scavenging is not beneath you. If you find a carcass that something else killed, you check to see if there's anything left worth taking. Predators leave scraps, bones with bits of meat clinging to them, organs that haven't been eaten yet. It's risky because whatever killed the animal might still be nearby, and it's not going to be happy about you moving in on its meal. But if you're hungry enough, you take the risk. You grab what you can and run, heart pounding, expecting at any moment to be chased down. Most of the time, you get away with it. Sometimes, you don't. And that's a lesson you only need to learn once. The smell of death is something you become familiar with. Rotting carcasses, old kills, the general decay of organic matter in the wild. It's a sweet, sickly smell that makes your stomach turn. But you have to push through it because there might be something useful there. A hide you can salvage, a bone you can turn into a tool, meat that's not completely spoiled yet. You hold your breath, work fast. and try not to think too hard about what you're doing. When you're done, the smell clings to you for hours. You can taste it in the back of your throat, a lingering reminder of just how desperate survival can make you. Your feet are a constant source of misery. Walking barefoot or in crude wrappings over rough terrain destroys them. Blisters form, burst, form again. The soles of your feet develop thick calluses, but even those crack and split, especially in cold weather. Every step is painful. You limp along, trying to favor one foot and then the other, but there's no relief. You sit down to check your feet and they're a mess. Cuts, bruises, swelling, embedded thorns, blackened toenails from being stubbed over and over. You pick out what debris you can, wince through the pain, and keep going because stopping isn't an option. Your knees take an incredible beating. All the squatting, climbing, running and kneeling wears them down. They ache constantly. They crack and pop when you stand up. They swell after a long day of work. Sometimes they give out entirely, buckling under you without warning. You catch yourself, curse quietly and keep moving. There's no rest for damaged joints, no ice pack, no anti-inflammatory medication, no physiotherapy. You just push through and hope they hold up long enough to get through another day. Firewood collection is a never-ending chore. The fire must stay lit, which means you need a constant supply of fuel. You can't just pop down to a shop and buy a bundle of logs. You have to go out and find it yourself. Dead branches, fallen trees, anything dry enough to burn. You're walking through the forest, scanning the ground, breaking off pieces, testing them to see if they're too damp. Wet wood doesn't burn well. It smokes and hisses and produces almost no heat. So you're selective, which means you cover more ground, walk further, carry more. Carrying firewood back to camp is brutally hard work. You stack it in your arms until you can barely see over the top of the pile. It's heavy, it's awkward. Branches poke you in the face and snag on everything. You're stumbling along, trying not to drop the whole load, feeling the weight press into your forearms and chest. Your arms start to shake, your grip weakens. You have to stop and rest, dumping the wood on the ground, flexing your aching hands. Then you pick it all up and keep going because the fire won't feed itself. Splitting wood is another exhausting task. Large branches and logs need to be broken down into smaller pieces that will actually burn. You're using a rock as a wedge, hammering it with another rock, trying to split the wood along the grain. Sometimes it works, sometimes the wood is too tough or too green, and it just absorbs the impact without splitting. You hit it again and again, arms burning, sweat pouring down your face. Your hands develop blisters on top of existing calluses. The skin tears, it stings, but you keep going because you need that wood. Keeping the fire going overnight is critical, especially in cold weather. Someone has to stay awake, tending it, adding wood before it burns down to embers. It's miserable duty. You're exhausted, desperate for sleep, but you're stuck sitting by the fire, feeding it, watching it, making sure it doesn't die. Your eyes droop. You nod off for a second, jerk awake in a panic, check the fire. It's still going. You add more wood, you settle back down, and the cycle repeats all night long. By morning, you're wrecked, but the fire's still lit, so you did your job. Fire is also dangerous. You're living with an open flame in a shelter made of flammable materials. Accidents happen. A spark lands on dry grass and suddenly everything's on fire. You're scrambling to put it out, smothering it with hides, kicking dirt onto it, panicking because if the shelter burns down, you're in serious trouble. Most of the time you catch it in time, but the near misses are frequent and terrifying. You're always aware that one mistake could cost you everything. Burns are common. You're reaching over the fire to grab something and your arm gets too close. A flame licks your skin and you pull back with a yelp, clutching your arm. The burn throbs, red and angry. It blisters. It weeps clear fluid that sticks your arm to whatever you're wearing. There's no ointment, no burn cream, no relief. You just let it heal on its own, which takes forever. The blister eventually pops, leaving raw skin that's sensitive and painful. It scars, adding another mark to your growing collection. Smoke inhalation is a chronic problem. You're breathing in smoke from the fire every single day. It gets in your lungs, making you cough. A deep, harsh cough that racks your whole body and brings up thick stuff from your chest. Your lungs feel heavy. Your breathing is laboured. You wheeze when you exert yourself. Over the years, your lung capacity diminishes. You can't run as far or as fast. You get winded easily. It's another way the environment is slowly killing you, degree by degree. Tool maintenance takes up more time than you'd expect. Your tools are crude and they break. A lot. The sharp edge on your cutting stone chips off. The binding on your spear comes loose. The handle on your digging stick cracks. You're constantly repairing, reshaping, replacing. It's tedious work that requires concentration and skill. You're sitting there, carefully flaking a new edge onto a stone blade, one tiny chip at a time. It takes hours to make a tool that will last a few days if you're lucky. Then you do it all over again. Making cordage is an endless task. You need rope for everything. Tying tools together, building shelters, setting traps, making clothes. But you don't have rope. You have to make it from plant fibers. You gather long grasses or strips of bark, then twist them together, rolling them between your palms or against your thigh. It takes forever to make even a short length. Your hands get raw from the friction. The fibers cut into your skin, but you keep going because you need that cordage. When it's finally done, it's rough and scratchy and not particularly strong, but it'll do until it breaks. Then you make more. Sewing is done with bone needles and sinew thread, and it's painstaking. You're trying to repair a tear in your clothing or attach a new piece of hide. The needle is thick and blunt. The sinew is stiff and uncooperative. You're forcing the needle through tough material, using all your strength, sometimes slipping and stabbing yourself in the process. Your fingers are covered in tiny puncture wounds. The stitching is uneven and crude, but it holds. Mostly, until it doesn't, and then you're sewing again. Tanning hides is a disgusting, labour-intensive process. When you've got a fresh hide, you need to treat it, or it'll rot and become useless. You scrape off all the flesh and fat clinging to the inside, which is revolting. It's slippery, and it smells awful. Then you have to soften the hide by working it, stretching it, sometimes chewing it to break down the fibers. Yes, chewing it. You're gnawing on animal skin, tasting the leather, working it with your teeth until your jaw aches. It's as grim as it sounds. But if you don't do it, the hide stays stiff and unusable. Some groups use brains to tan hides. Animal brains. You mash them into a paste and rub it into the hide. The oils and enzymes in the brain help soften the leather. It works, but it's messy, and it smells horrendous. You're elbow deep in brain matter, working it into every inch of the hide, trying not to gag. Your hands are covered in greasy slime. The smell clings to you for days, no matter how many times you try to wash it off in the river. But the end result is a soft, workable hide, so you tolerate the process. Clothing wears out fast. The hides you're wearing thin and tear from constant use. Seams split. Holes appear. You're constantly patching and repairing, trying to extend the life of your clothes as long as possible, because making new ones is a huge undertaking. But eventually they're beyond repair, and you have to start from scratch. That means hunting an animal specifically for its hide, killing it, processing the hide, sewing it together. It's days of work for one simple garment, and then the whole cycle starts again when that one wears out. Personal grooming is minimal. You don't have a mirror, so you have no idea what you actually look like. You probably don't want to know. Your face is weathered and dirty. Your hair is a mess. Your nails are broken and filthy. You try to keep yourself somewhat clean, but it's a losing battle. You're constantly dirty. There's always grime under your nails, always a smudge on your face, always something. You give up trying to be clean and just settle for not being completely disgusting. Bathing in cold water is a special kind of torture. You psych yourself up for it, standing on the bank, dreading the moment you have to go in. Then you steel yourself and plunge in all at once. The cold hits you like a physical blow. It drives the air from your lungs. Your skin goes numb instantly. You're gasping and shivering, scrubbing at yourself as fast as you can, desperate to get out. The water's so cold it feels like it's burning. You scramble back onto the bank, teeth chattering violently, and stand there dripping and miserable, waiting to dry off. There's no towel. You just air dry, shivering the whole time. Territory disputes with other groups are a constant low-level threat. Resources are limited, and everyone needs the same things. Good hunting grounds, clean water, shelter locations. When another group moves into an area you consider yours, tensions rise. There's posturing, shouting, shows of strength. Most of the time, one group backs down and moves on, but not always. Sometimes it escalates. Someone throws a rock, someone else retaliates. Before you know it, you're in a full confrontation and people get hurt. Fighting is brutal and desperate. You don't have armor or shields or any real protection. You've got your hunting weapons and your bare hands. Rocks get thrown, spears get thrust. People grapple and punch and bite. It's chaotic and terrifying. You're fighting for your life against people who are just as desperate and scared as you are. The noise is overwhelming. Shouting, screaming, the impact of bodies colliding. Your heart is pounding so hard it feels like it'll burst. Adrenaline floods your system, giving you strength you didn't know you had. When it's over, you're shaking. Your hands are trembling. You're covered in bruises and scrapes. Maybe worse. You check yourself over, assessing the damage, relieved to still be in one piece. Others aren't so lucky. Someone's nursing a broken arm. Someone else has a gash that won't stop leaking. You help as best you can, but there's not much you can do. You bind wounds with strips of hide. You set broken bones by feel, hoping you're doing it right. And then you move on, because staying in a contested area is too dangerous. The fear of attack never really leaves you. Even in your own territory, you're aware that danger could come at any time. You post sentries at night, taking turns keeping watch. You sleep lightly, ready to wake at the first sign of trouble. Every sound makes you tense. Is that just the wind, or is someone approaching? You peer into the darkness, trying to see, trying to hear, your nerves stretched tight. Most nights, nothing happens, but the anxiety is always there. Theft is a serious crime within your group. Everyone depends on everyone else, and stealing undermines that trust. If someone takes more than their share or steals tools or hides food, there's immediate consequences. The group confronts the thief. There's shouting, anger, demands for restitution. Punishments are harsh because the group can't afford to have members they can't trust. The thief might be ostracized, forced to do the worst tasks, or, in extreme cases, driven out of the group entirely. Being exiled is essentially a death sentence. Surviving alone is nearly impossible. Social hierarchies exist. even in small groups. Some people are better hunters. Some are better at making tools. Some are just naturally more dominant and end up making decisions. You have to navigate these dynamics carefully. Challenge the wrong person, and you could find yourself on the bottom of the social ladder, getting the worst jobs and the smallest portions. Keep your head down, do your work, and try to stay in everyone's good graces. It's exhausting in a different way than physical labor, but just as necessary for survival. Elders hold a certain status because of their knowledge. They've survived longer, which means they know things. Which plants are safe, where the best hunting grounds are, how to read weather signs. Their memories are the group's library. You listen to them because their knowledge could save your life. But they're also a burden. They can't contribute as much physically. They need care and support. And there's an unspoken understanding that resources are scarce. The group cares for them as long as it can, but there's limits to that generosity. Pregnancy and birth are dangerous, though we won't dwell on the details. Suffice to say, adult women in your group face risks that modern medicine has largely eliminated. The group does what it can to help, but outcomes are uncertain. When things go well, there's relief and celebration. When they don't, there's grief and a sobering reminder of just how fragile life is. The group mourns, then moves forward, because that's all you can do. Children grow quickly from helpless infants to contributing members, but we're focusing on adult life here. As an adult, you're expected to pull your weight from the moment you're capable. There's no extended adolescence, no gap year, no time to figure yourself out. You're an adult, so you work, you hunt, you gather, you contribute. That's your role, and you fulfill it until your body gives out. Injuries that would be minor in the modern world are serious here. A twisted ankle can mean you can't hunt for a week. That's a week of reduced food intake, of relying on others, of feeling useless. A deep cut could get infected and kill you. A broken bone that doesn't set right could leave you crippled. You're constantly aware of how fragile you are, how close you are to the edge. One mistake, one moment of bad luck, and everything could fall apart. Infections are your worst enemy. You get a small wound and you think it's fine. Then it starts to hurt more than it should. The skin around it gets hot and red. It swells. It throbs with a deep, painful ache. You know something's wrong, but there's nothing you can do. You keep it clean as best you can, washing it in the river, but that might just introduce more problems. The infection spreads. Your whole arm or leg swells up. You develop a fever. You're sweating and shivering at the same time, delirious, barely aware of what's happening. And then, maybe your body fights it off, and you survive. Or maybe it doesn't, and you don't. Fevers are terrifying. Your temperature spikes and you're burning up. You feel like you're on fire from the inside. Someone tries to cool you down, draping wet hides over you, but it doesn't help much. You drift in and out of consciousness, hallucinating, seeing things that aren't there. You have no idea what's wrong with you or whether you'll recover. You're completely at the mercy of your own immune system. If it's strong enough, you pull through. If not, you waste away. Too weak to move, too weak to eat, until eventually you just stop. Chronic pain becomes your baseline. You're in your 30s and you feel like you're 60. Everything hurts all the time. Your joints, your muscles, your bones. You move stiffly, slowly, like an old person. Because you are old by Stone Age standards. You've lived a hard life, and it shows. Every movement is a reminder of past injuries, past strains, the cumulative damage of years of brutal labor. You keep going because you have to, but there's no enjoyment in it anymore. It's just endurance. The lack of hope is soul-crushing, There's no future to look forward to, no goals beyond immediate survival, no dreams of a better life, because this is as good as it gets. You're not working towards anything, you're just existing, day after day, in a cycle that never changes. The monotony is suffocating. You wake up, you work, you eat if you're lucky, you sleep, repeat forever. There's no progress, no improvement, no sense that things will ever be different. This is your life, and it will be your life until you die. The psychological weight of that realization is immense. In the modern world, even when things are hard, there's the possibility of change. You can get a new job, move to a new place, learn a new skill. Here, there's nothing. You're trapped by the limitations of your technology, your environment, your circumstances. You can't escape. You can't improve your situation beyond the most basic level. You're stuck, and you know it, and that knowledge eats away at you. Tracking animals requires skills you simply don't have. You're staring at the ground, looking for signs, and you see dirt, just dirt. Someone more experienced points out a partial print, a disturbed patch of leaves, a broken twig at a certain height. You nod like you understand, but you don't. Not really. To you, it all looks the same. You're stumbling along behind, trying to learn, but it's information that takes years to absorb. Which direction was the animal moving? How long ago was it here? Is it alone or part of a group? You have no idea. You're completely useless at this fundamental survival skill. When the group does track down prey, you're expected to help with a kill. This is not a clean process. Animals don't die quickly or quietly. They panic, they run, they fight back. You're part of a chaotic chase through dense brush, thorns tearing at your skin, branches whipping your face. Your lungs are burning. Your legs feel like they're going to give out. The animal is faster than you, more agile, more desperate. You're just trying to keep up, trying not to lose sight of it, while more experienced hunters try to get into position for a killing blow. When the animal finally goes down, it's not instant. It's wounded, thrashing, making awful noises. You have to approach carefully because even a dying animal can injure you badly. Hooves kick out, antlers swing, teeth snap. Someone has to get in close and finish it, and that job sometimes falls to you. Your hands are shaking, you're scared. You thrust your spear and miss the vital spot. You have to do it again and again. It's horrible. The animal's suffering. You're suffering. Everyone's tense and anxious. When it finally stops moving, you're not triumphant. You're just relieved it's over. The guilt sits with you afterwards. You've just ended a life, a creature that was minding its own business, trying to survive just like you. You know it's necessary. You know you need to eat, but that doesn't make it easier. You see the animal's eyes, glassy and empty, and something twists in your gut. You push the feeling down, because dwelling on it doesn't help anyone. You've got work to do. The animal needs to be processed before scavengers arrive, or it starts to spoil. So you get to work, hands sticky, trying not to think too much. Butchering in the field is rushed and messy. You need to lighten the load before carrying everything back. That means gutting the animal right there. You cut into the belly and the insides spill out, warm and steaming in the cool air. The smell is overwhelming, thick and organic and almost sweet. It makes your head spin. You're separating organs, keeping the useful ones, discarding the rest. Your hands are slippery. Everything is slippery. You're covered in mess up to your elbows, trying not to slip in the spreading puddle beneath the carcass. Predators can smell a kill from a long distance. You're working fast, constantly glancing around, listening for sounds that don't belong. Every rustle makes your heart jump. You're vulnerable here, distracted, focused on the task. If something decided to investigate, you'd have very little warning. The tension is exhausting. You're trying to work quickly without making mistakes, which is nearly impossible when you're both rushed and terrified. By the time you're done, your nerves are shot. Carrying meat back to camp attracts attention. The smell draws flies immediately. They land on the meat, on your skin, in your hair. You're walking through the forest with a cloud of insects following you. Larger scavengers might trail you too, keeping their distance but definitely interested. You hear something pacing you through the brush and you walk faster, gripping your spear tighter, hoping your group's presence is enough to deter an attack. Usually it is, but not always, and those exceptions are the stuff of nightmares. Rationing food is a constant source of stress. You've brought back a decent-sized animal, but it has to feed the entire group for days. Portions are carefully divided. You get your share and it's smaller than you'd like. Your stomach is still growling after you've finished eating. You eye the remaining meat, calculating how long it needs to last, knowing you can't have more. Someone always complains they didn't get enough. Someone always thinks the division was unfair. Arguments break out, tensions flare, and you're all miserable because everyone's hungry and there's not enough to go around. Feast and famine cycles define your existence. Some weeks the hunting is good and you eat well. Your stomach is full. You have energy. You almost feel human. Then the luck runs out. Animals move to different areas. Weather makes hunting impossible. Several hunts in a row yield nothing, and suddenly you're starving. Your stomach cramps. Your energy plummets. You feel weak and dizzy. You're irritable and foggy-headed. Your body starts consuming itself, burning through fat reserves you don't really have, then moving on to muscle. You lose weight rapidly. Your face becomes gaunt. Your ribs show, and you just have to endure it until the next successful hunt. Starvation does strange things to your mind. You become obsessed with food. You can't think about anything else. Every conversation somehow circles back to eating. You dream about meals, vivid dreams where you're feasting, and then you wake up and the crushing disappointment nearly breaks you. Your body is screaming for nourishment. Your stomach produces acid with nothing to digest, giving you constant heartburn. You feel nauseated but also desperately hungry at the same time. It's a miserable paradox. Desperation makes you take risks you normally wouldn't. You eat plants you're not completely sure about. You scavenge carcasses that are a bit too old. You hunt in dangerous areas because that's where the animals are. You push yourself beyond exhaustion because finding food is literally a matter of life and death. And sometimes those risks don't pay off. You eat something that makes you violently ill, losing what little energy you had left. You disturb a predator and barely escape. You collapse from exhaustion and your group has to carry you back. But you keep taking those risks because the alternative is starving to death. Watching others suffer is its own torture. You see members of your group growing weaker. Their movements become sluggish. Their faces take on a hollow, haunted look. They stop talking as much, conserving energy. The youngest adults and the oldest suffer most. They need more resources, but there's nothing extra to give them. You want to help, but you can't. You're barely hanging on yourself. So you watch, helpless, as people you've lived with for years fade before your eyes. When someone dies from starvation, it's a slow, drawn-out process. They stop being able to stand, then they stop being able to sit up. They lie there, too weak to move, eyes open but unfocused. Their breathing becomes shallow. Their skin takes on a greyish tone, and eventually they just stop. There's no dramatic final moment. They're there, and then they're not. The group wraps the body in hides and buries it as best they can, scraping out a shallow depression in the ground and covering it with stones to keep scavengers away. Then everyone moves on because grieving is a luxury you can't afford. The survivors carry the guilt. Could we have done something different? Should we have moved to a different area sooner? Was there food we missed? These questions circle endlessly, but there's never good answers. You were all doing your best with limited options. Sometimes your best isn't enough. That's the harsh reality. You file the guilt away with all the other emotional baggage you're accumulating and focus on staying alive. Disease spreads quickly through your group when living in close quarters. Someone starts coughing, and within days half the group is coughing. You're breathing the same air, sharing the same space, touching the same surfaces. There's no quarantine, no isolation. You're all in this together, which means when illness strikes, it strikes everyone. You lie there, chest tight, throat raw, hacking up thick matter that tastes foul. Your body aches from the constant coughing. Your ribs hurt, your head pounds, and you just have to wait it out, hoping your body can fight it off. Respiratory infections are particularly dangerous. In the modern world, they're inconvenient. Here, they can kill you. Your lungs fill with fluid. Breathing becomes difficult, laboured. Each breath is a struggle, a wheezing, rattling effort that doesn't bring enough air. You're exhausted from the simple act of breathing. You can't sleep properly because lying down makes it worse. You sit propped against the cave wall, half dozing, suffocating slowly. If your body can't clear the infection, you drown from the inside. It's a horrible way to go, and you're acutely aware that it could happen to you. Stomach illnesses are equally miserable. Something you ate or drank has turned against you. Your stomach cramps violently, seizing into painful knots. You're squatting in the bushes constantly, losing fluids from both ends, getting weaker by the hour. Dehydration sets in fast. Your mouth is dry, your lips crack, your skin loses elasticity. You're desperately thirsty, but drinking anything just seems to make it worse. You're trapped in a cycle of misery, unable to keep anything down, unable to stop losing fluids. If it goes on too long, you die. Simple as that. Parasites cause chronic problems that gradually wear you down. The worms in your intestines are consuming nutrients you desperately need. You eat, but you don't get the full benefit because you're feeding them too. Over time, this leads to malnutrition, even when you're eating regularly. You're tired all the time, you're weak, your immune system is compromised, making you susceptible to other illnesses. It's a downward spiral, and there's no way to stop it. The parasites are part of you now, permanent passengers draining your life force bit by bit. Skin conditions are rampant. Rashes appear for no clear reason, spreading across your body in itchy, inflamed patches. You scratch until you're raw, sometimes breaking the skin, which then gets infected. You develop boils, painful lumps under the skin that throb and ache. They swell, filling with fluid until they finally burst, releasing a mess that smells putrid. The relief is temporary. New boils appear elsewhere. You're constantly dealing with some kind of skin problem, your body's largest organ under constant assault from dirt, parasites, infections, and the general harshness of your environment. Dental problems become unbearable. You've got a tooth that's gone bad, decayed from the inside. It throbs with a deep, relentless pain that radiates through your jaw and up into your skull. You can't eat on that side. You can't sleep. The pain is constant, consuming, driving you to distraction. You try everything. You pack moss around it. You avoid hot and cold. Nothing helps. Eventually, in desperation, someone tries to pull it. They tie sinew around the tooth and yank. It doesn't come out clean, it breaks, leaving sharp fragments embedded in your gum. Now you've got the original pain plus new injuries, and there's still a piece of rotten tooth in there, continuing to cause problems. Eyesight problems make everything harder. Maybe you've always had poor vision, or maybe it's deteriorating from age and strain. Either way, you're struggling to see properly. Hunting becomes nearly impossible because you can't track small details. Gathering is harder because you can't spot the plants you need. Tool making requires precision you no longer have. You're squinting constantly, getting headaches, feeling frustrated and useless. The group's patience with you wears thin because you're not contributing as much. You're becoming a liability, and everyone knows it, especially you. Hearing loss isolates you from the group. You miss parts of conversations. People have to repeat themselves, and you can see their irritation growing. You don't hear warning sounds as quickly, making you a danger to yourself and others. The social bonds that help keep the group cohesive start to fray because communication is difficult. You're left out of discussions because it's too much effort to include you. You feel yourself becoming peripheral, less important, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your senses are failing, and you're still expected to survive with diminished capacity. Joint problems are inevitable. Your knees are shot from years of squatting and kneeling. They're swollen, stiff, painful with every step. Your hips ache constantly, a deep grinding pain that never quite goes away. Your shoulders are damaged from repetitive motions, throwing spears, carrying loads. Your hands are gnarled, fingers that don't straighten properly anymore, knuckles swollen into knobbly lumps. Every movement reminds you of your body's deterioration. You're breaking down, wearing out, and there's no replacement parts. When something stops working, you just adapt and carry on as best you can. Back problems are almost universal. Everyone's got a bad back. The constant bending, lifting, carrying heavy loads improperly because there is no proper way. Your spine has taken incredible abuse. Discs compress and bulge. Vertebrae grind against each other. Nerves get pinched, sending shooting pains down your legs. Some days you can barely straighten up. You're locked in a bent position, moving like an old cripple, even though you're not actually that old by modern standards. Your back has just had enough. Muscle tears and strains happen regularly. You're pushing your body beyond its limits constantly. A sudden movement, an awkward lift, and something tears. You feel it go, a sharp pain followed by immediate weakness. That muscle doesn't work right anymore. It's damaged, and it needs rest to heal properly. But rest isn't an option. You keep using it because you have to, and it never heals correctly. It remains weak, prone to re-injury. You accumulate these damaged spots all over your body, areas that are permanently compromised, waiting to fail again. Scars map your history. Every mark tells a story of survival. The long one on your forearm from when you slipped while butchering. The puckered circle on your thigh from a burn. The crooked line across your shin from tripping over a sharp rock. The ragged patch on your shoulder from an animal attack. You're covered in them, a walking testament to the dangers you faced and somehow survived. But each scar is also a reminder of pain, of injury, of moments when things could have gone much worse. Calluses build up in layers on your hands and feet, thick protective pads that are necessary but uncomfortable. The calluses crack, especially in cold weather, creating deep fissures that hurt and sometimes get infected. You pick at them, trying to smooth the rough edges, but that just makes it worse. They catch on things, tear partially off, leaving exposed flesh underneath that's tender and painful. Your hands and feet are tough but damaged, functional but far from comfortable. Bruises are a constant presence on your body. You're always banging into things, dropping things on yourself, taking impacts from falls and struggles. Your shins are mottled with bruises in various stages of healing. Your arms are spotted with them. Some bruises are fresh and painful. Others are fading to yellow and green. You stop noticing them individually. They're just part of how you look now, part of the background noise of physical discomfort that defines existence. Navigation without maps or compasses is an art you barely grasp. The group has territories they know, landmarks they recognize, but venture beyond familiar ground, and you're lost almost immediately. Everything looks the same. Trees, rocks, hills, they all blend together. You try to mark your path, break in branches, stack in stones, but when you try to retrace your steps, nothing looks right. Panic sets in fast. Being lost means you can't find your way back to shelter, to the group, to safety. You're exposed and vulnerable, and night is coming. The sun helps if you understand how to read it. It rises in one direction, sets in another, tracks across the sky in a predictable arc, except when it's cloudy, or when you're in dense forest and can't see the sky. Then you're guessing, picking a direction and hoping it's right. You walk for hours, increasingly certain you're going in circles. Your landmarks don't appear. Nothing looks familiar. The knot of anxiety in your stomach tightens with each step. You might never find your way back. People get lost and disappear. It happens. It could happen to you. Stars help at night if you know the patterns. The group's elders can read the sky, picking out shapes and using them to navigate. You've tried to learn, but the stars all look like random dots to you. Someone points out a constellation, and you nod like you see it, but you don't. Not really. You can maybe identify the brightest stars, but using them to actually navigate? You'd be hopelessly lost within an hour. It's yet another critical skill you lack, another way in which you're utterly dependent on others. Rivers are useful landmarks. Follow a river and eventually you'll find people, or at least you'll have water. But rivers can be dangerous to cross. The current is stronger than it looks. The water's cold and fast-moving. You step in and immediately feel it trying to sweep your feet out from under you. You're struggling to stay upright. Water pushing against your legs. Rocks slippery underfoot. If you fall, you'll be carried downstream, battered against rocks, possibly drowned. You've seen it happen. Bodies recovered downstream, bruised and broken. So you approach rivers with respect and fear. Crossing a river is a group effort. You link arms, forming a chain, the strongest people at either end. You shuffle across together, supporting each other against the current. Even then it's terrifying. The water rises to your waist, then your chest. It's shockingly cold, stealing your breath. The current is relentless, pushing, pulling, trying to break the chain. Someone loses their footing and nearly takes everyone down. You grip tighter, muscles straining, willing yourself to stay upright. When you finally reach the other side, you collapse on the bank, shaking and gasping, grateful to be alive. Swamps are nightmares to navigate. The ground isn't solid. You step forward and sink into mud that sucks at your feet. You're pulling each leg free with effort, mud releasing with obscene squelching sounds. The smell is awful, stagnant water and rotting vegetation. A thick, swampy reek that coats the back of your throat. Insects swarm in clouds so dense you breathe them in. You're spitting out mosquitoes, waving your arms uselessly, making almost no progress. And the whole time you're terrified of sinkholes, of spots where the mud is deep enough to swallow you completely. Mountains present their own challenges. The altitude makes breathing harder. You're gasping for air, heart pounding, legs burning from the constant uphill climb. The terrain is treacherous, loose rocks that shift under your feet, steep slopes where one wrong step means a fall that could kill you. You're using your hands as much as your feet, scrambling over boulders, gripping outcrops, pulling yourself upward. Your fingers are scraped raw, your arms shake from effort, and when you finally reach the top, you realize you have to go down the other side, which is almost worse. Going downhill means controlling your descent, fighting gravity, your knees absorbing constant impact. Caves provide shelter, but they're unnerving. The darkness inside is absolute. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You're feeling your way forward, hands on damp stone walls, shuffling your feet to avoid tripping. Strange sounds echo from deep within, dripping water, skittering that might be bats or might be something else. Your imagination runs wild. You're acutely aware that predators use caves too. Bears, large cats, things that could kill you easily. Every shadow seems to move. Every sound makes you freeze. You camp near the entrance where there's light and an escape route, but you never feel truly safe. Rock shelters are preferable to deep caves, an overhang that provides protection from rain and wind, but doesn't require venturing into darkness. You set up underneath, build your fire, try to ignore the cold stone at your back. It's better than being completely exposed, but not by much. Wind swirls around the opening, bringing cold air and rain spray. The smoke from your fire has nowhere to go and fills the space, choking you. You're coughing constantly, eyes streaming, but moving the fire means losing what little warmth it provides. You're trapped between bad options, choosing the least awful one. Territorial animals are a constant threat. You've wandered into an area claimed by something large and aggressive. You don't realize until you hear the warning sounds, growling, huffing, the crash of something big moving through brush. Your group freezes. Someone whispers instructions. Back away slowly. Don't run. Don't make eye contact. You're retreating, trying to move quietly, praying the animal decides you're not worth the effort. Sometimes it works. Sometimes the animal charges anyway, and then you're running, scrambling, climbing trees, doing whatever it takes to get away. Wild dogs hunt in packs and they're smart. They test your defenses looking for weakness. They circle your camp at night, just beyond the firelight, eyes reflecting the flames. You can hear them communicating, yips and howls that make your skin crawl. They're coordinating, planning. If they decide to attack, it'll be organized and vicious. You keep the fire built up high, weapons ready, everyone awake and watching. The tension is unbearable. Hours pass. Finally, as dawn approaches, the dogs withdraw. You've survived another night, but you're exhausted and rattled. Snakes are a hidden danger. You're walking through grass and you nearly step on one. It strikes lightning fast and you barely jerk your leg back in time. Your heart is hammering. That was too close. Snake bites are often fatal. The poison spreads through your body, causing pain, swelling, paralysis, death. There's no antidote, no treatment. If you get bitten, you might survive if it wasn't a large dose. Or you might not. You're more careful now, watching where you step, poking ahead with a stick. But you can't spot every snake. They're camouflaged, patient, waiting for prey or threats. It's just another way the environment is trying to kill you. Insects are more than annoying, they're dangerous. Some carry diseases you don't understand. You get bitten, think nothing of it. Then days later you're burning with fever, delirious, your body fighting some invisible invader. You either recover or you don't. There's no way to know which it'll be. You've seen people survive dozens of bites with no problems, then one bite from the wrong insect and they're dead within a week. It's random, terrifying, completely beyond your control. Isolation from other groups means your gene pool is limited. Everyone's related to everyone else, at least distantly. The group is small, maybe 20 to 40 people at most. You've known these same faces your entire adult life. There's no one new to meet, no fresh perspectives, no outside influence. The sameness is stifling. Personalities grate on each other after years of close proximity. That person's laugh that you used to tolerate now makes you want to scream. Someone's habit of chewing loudly drives you to distraction, but you're stuck with them forever. There's no moving away, no changing social circles. This is your world, these people, this small group, until you die. Conflict resolution is primitive and often violent. When tensions boil over, there's no mediator, no court system, no fair process. It's usually resolved by whoever's strongest or most intimidating. Arguments escalate into physical confrontations. Shoving, punching, grappling in the dirt. The group watches, sometimes intervening, sometimes letting it play out. Whoever wins gets their way. It's not justice, it's just power. And if you're on the losing end, you swallow your resentment and comply, because fighting back again will only make things worse. Social status matters enormously in such a small group. If you're respected, life is marginally easier. You get slightly better portions, more say in decisions, more support when you need it. If you're low status, you get the worst of everything. The smallest shares, the hardest tasks, the least consideration, and status can shift based on performance. Have a run of successful hunts and you rise. Get injured and become less useful and you fall. It's precarious and stressful, this constant jockeying for position, but it matters deeply because it affects your survival. Alliances form and dissolve based on necessity. You're friendly with someone because they're useful to you and you're useful to them. You hunt together, share resources, watch each other's backs. But if circumstances change, so does the alliance. Someone becomes more valuable to someone else, and suddenly you're on the outside. Betrayal is common because loyalty is expensive. When resources are tight, people look after themselves first. You learn not to trust too deeply, not to rely too much on anyone. Self-sufficiency is impossible, but dependence is dangerous. Gossip and social manipulation are rampant. There's nothing else to do but talk, and people talk about each other constantly. Who's not pulling their weight? Who took more than their share? Who's sneaking off to do who knows what? Reputations are built and destroyed through whispered conversations. Someone starts a rumor about you, and suddenly everyone's looking at you differently. You defend yourself, but the doubt lingers. Social dynamics are treacherous, a minefield of alliances and grudges and petty resentments that can turn your life miserable. Romantic relationships are complicated by proximity and limited options. You're attracted to someone, but they're probably related to you in some way. The group is small and interconnected, or they're already paired with someone else, and causing problems there would create conflict you can't afford. Or they're not interested, and you still have to see them and interact with them every single day. There's no privacy for relationships. Everyone knows everyone's business. Intimacy happens in stolen moments, away from camp, quick and furtive, and always with the awareness that you might be interrupted or observed. Jealousy and possessiveness cause constant drama. Someone's unhappy with their partner. Someone else is interested. Triangles form, feelings get hurt, confrontations happen. It's like the worst relationship drama you've ever witnessed, except you can't escape it. You're trapped in this small social bubble where everyone's emotional problems become everyone's problems. It's exhausting and frustrating, but it's also the only human connection available. So you participate even though you'd rather not, because the alternative is complete isolation. Aging is visible and frightening. You watch older members of the group decline, and you see your future. They move slower. They're in constant pain. They can't contribute as much. They become dependent on the group's charity, which wears thin over time. You see the younger members getting impatient with them, see the calculations happening. How much longer can we support this person? What's their value versus their cost? It's brutal and pragmatic and completely understandable given the scarcity you're all living with. And you know that in a few years, that'll be you. You'll be the burden, the drain on resources, hoping the group keeps you around out of loyalty or pity. Death is handled pragmatically. There's grief, certainly, but it's brief. Someone dies, the group mourns for a day, maybe two, then moves on. Life continues because it has to. The dead person's possessions are redistributed immediately. Their sleeping spot is taken by someone else. Their absence is noted but not dwelled upon. You learn to compartmentalize grief, to feel it, and then put it away, because lingering in sadness serves no purpose. It's a cold way to handle death, but anything else would be psychologically unsustainable given how often people die. Bodies are disposed of quickly to avoid attracting scavengers. You dig a shallow grave if the ground allows it, or cover the body with rocks. There's no elaborate ceremony, no marker, nothing to indicate that a person once existed here. They're gone, and the world moves on. In a few years, no one will remember exactly where they're buried. In a generation, they'll be completely forgotten, just another nameless person who lived and died without leaving any mark. The impermanence is existentially terrifying. Children represent the future, but we're focusing on adult life. So suffice to say that adults in the group are responsible for the survival of younger generation. It's a collective effort, with everyone contributing to teaching, feeding, protecting. But it's also another drain on resources, another pressure point during times of scarcity. Adults are caught between caring for the young and ensuring their own survival, and sometimes those needs conflict. The decisions made during those conflicts are hard ones, with no good options. Education is informal and survival-focused. You learn by watching and doing. Someone teaches you to track by taking you hunting and showing you what to look for. Someone teaches you to prepare hides by having you help with the process. There's no written knowledge, no books, no way to preserve information except through demonstration and memory. If the person who knows a particular skill dies before passing it on, that knowledge is lost forever. It's a fragile system, dependent on people living long enough to teach the next generation. Innovation is rare and slow. You're using the same techniques your ancestors used because they work and because trying something new is risky. Experiments waste resources. Failures can be deadly. So you stick with what's known, even if it's inefficient or difficult. Progress happens over generations, if at all. From your perspective, nothing changes. The tools are the same, the methods are the same. Everything is locked in tradition because tradition is tested and trusted. The status quo is safer than innovation. Boredom is a strange concept when you're always busy, yet you're bored constantly. The work is repetitive and mindless. You're doing the same tasks over and over, your hands moving on autopilot while your brain screams for stimulation. You fantasize about anything different, a new challenge, a new problem, something to break the monotony. But different usually means dangerous, so you settle for bored. Day after day of the same routine, the same people. The same conversations. Your mind starts to go numb from lack of input. Storage of resources is nearly impossible, which means you can't plan ahead effectively. You can dry some meat, gather some nuts, but it's never enough to last through extended hardship. Everything either spoils or gets eaten by vermin or gets stolen by scavengers. You're constantly starting from zero, constantly scrambling to meet immediate needs with no buffer for emergencies. The inability to store food means you're always one bad week away from starvation. That precariousness is mentally exhausting, a weight you carry every moment. Containers are precious and limited. You've got a few bags made from woven grass that fall apart regularly. Maybe a hollowed gourd that cracked last week and now leaks. Perhaps a section of animal stomach that holds water but makes everything taste foul. These containers are among your most valuable possessions, and they're constantly wearing out. Making new ones takes hours of tedious work. You're weaving grass fibers together, over and under, creating a loose basket that will hold dry goods but nothing liquid. Your hands cramp from the repetitive motion. Your eyes strain from focusing on fine detail. And when you're finally done, you have a container that will last maybe a month before it needs major repairs. Smoking racks for preserving meat are constructed from green branches that won't burn easily. You lash them together with cordage, creating a rough frame above the fire. Then you drape strips of meat over the frame and tend the fire carefully, keeping it smoky rather than hot. The process takes days. You're constantly adjusting the fire, moving meat around so it dries evenly, brushing off flies that are determined to lay eggs on your food. Your eyes burn from the smoke, your lungs ache. But if you do it right, you end up with jerky that's tough as old leather but edible and relatively long-lasting. Rendered fat is valuable for multiple purposes. Cooking, waterproofing, creating a barrier against cold and moisture. You're heating fat in a crude stone bowl near the fire, watching it melt into liquid. The smell is thick and greasy, coating the inside of your nostrils. You skim off the bits of meat and tissue, leaving relatively pure fat that cools into a solid cake. You store it carefully, rationing it out for essential uses. A little rubbed onto dry leather softens it. A little added to roots makes them less awful to eat. A little smeared on your skin provides a barrier against the cold, though it makes you feel grimy and attracts dirt and insects. Bone marrow is a delicacy, rich and fatty. After butchering, you're cracking open the long bones to access the marrow inside. You're smashing them with rocks, trying to split them without shattering them into tiny pieces. When you get it right, you're rewarded with the soft marrow inside. It's rich and smooth, almost buttery, with a taste that's intense and satisfying. It's one of the few foods that actually tastes good, that feels indulgent. You savor it, eating slowly, knowing it won't last and there's no telling when you'll have it again. Organ meats are consumed quickly because they spoil fast. The liver, kidneys, heart, these are divided among the group and eaten the same day as the kill. They're nutritious but have strong flavors and odd textures. The liver is metallic and grainy. The kidneys taste vaguely of the animal's waste, which is off-putting, but you eat them anyway. The heart is tough and chewy, requiring serious jaw work. Nothing goes to waste because you can't afford waste, but that doesn't mean you enjoy eating every part of the animal. Intestines can be cleaned and used as cordage or containers, though the process is revolting. You're squeezing out the contents, which smell exactly as bad as you'd imagine. Then you're turning them inside out and scraping them clean, which takes forever and makes you gag repeatedly. Once they're cleaned, you either use them fresh for tying things, or you dry them for later use. They're surprisingly strong and flexible, useful for all sorts of tasks. But the memory of cleaning them never quite leaves you. and handling them always makes your stomach turn slightly. Hides with the fur still on are used for warmth. The process of keeping the fur intact while still treating the hide is difficult. You're scraping carefully, removing flesh without damaging the fur side. You're working the hide to keep it soft. The result is a fur blanket of sorts, warmer than plain leather but also bulkier and heavier. It sheds constantly, leaving fur everywhere. It harbours fleas and other insects enthusiastically. But when it's cold, it's one of your most valuable possessions, a layer between you and freezing to death. Sinew is harvested from along the animal's spine and legs. These tough fibres are dried and can be split into threads for sewing or twisted into strong cord. You're carefully pulling the sinew away from the muscle, trying to get long strips. It's tedious, delicate work. The sinew is slippery and tears easily if you're not careful. Once dried, it's incredibly useful but also scratchy and unpleasant to work with. It cuts into your fingers when you're sewing with it, leaving painful grooves in your skin. Bladders make decent water containers if you can clean and prepare them properly. Similar to intestines, you're cleaning out the inside thoroughly, then filling it with water and sealing the opening with a tied-off section of intestine. It's watertight, mostly, though it often develops slow leaks. The water tastes slightly of the bladder, a musty organic flavour that never quite goes away. But it's portable water, which is valuable enough to overlook the taste. Antlers and horns are treasured for tool making. They're hard and can be shaped into points for spears, or used as wedges or carved into needles. You're using rocks to chip and grind the antler into the shape you need, which takes hours. The dust from grinding makes you cough. The repetitive motion makes your arms ache. But the finished tool is more durable than stone in some applications, so it's worth the effort. A good antler-tipped spear is a prized possession, carefully maintained and guarded. Feathers from birds are used for various purposes. Larger feathers can be used to fletcher arrows if you're advanced enough to have bow technology, which your group isn't, so instead they're decorative, tucked into hair or clothing, a small aesthetic touch in an otherwise purely functional existence. They're also useful for dusting ash away from the fire or sweeping debris out of your shelter. Small uses, but in a world where you own almost nothing, even a handful of feathers has value. Shells, if you're anywhere near water, are shaped into cutting tools or used as containers for mixing pigments. You're grinding the edge of a shell against rock to sharpen it, creating a surprisingly effective cutting edge. It dulls quickly, but it's easy to resharpen. Shells are also decorative, strung together to make simple jewellery. Wearing a string of shells doesn't serve any practical purpose, but it's a way to express individuality, to mark yourself as slightly different from everyone else. It's a small rebellion against the uniformity of survival. Stones are your most important resource. You're constantly on the lookout for the right kind of stone. Flint, obsidian, chert, any stone that fractures predictably and can be shaped into sharp edges. You're carrying several stones with you always, different sizes for different purposes. A large one for heavy work, medium ones for general use, small, precise ones for detail work. They're heavy and awkward to carry, but without them you're helpless. You protect them carefully, knowing that breaking your best toolstone could be a disaster. Predator awareness becomes second nature. You're constantly scanning your surroundings, noting tracks, listening for warning calls from birds and small animals. Prey animals have sentries that alert to danger, and you've learned to listen to those signals. When everything goes quiet suddenly, that's bad. It means something large and dangerous is near. You freeze, trying to locate the threat, every sense on high alert. Your heart rate spikes, your breathing becomes shallow, You're preparing to run or fight, adrenaline flooding your system even before you've identified what's wrong. Large cats are among the most feared predators. They're silent, patient, and powerful. They stalk their prey, getting close before attacking, in a burst of speed you can't outrun. You've seen the aftermath of attacks: bodies mauled, throats torn out, death that was neither quick nor peaceful. The fear of cats is primal. You're vulnerable when gathering plants, bent over, focused on the ground, not watching around you. That's when attacks happen. Someone straightens up, and there's a cat right there, close enough to touch. Sometimes the group drives it off. Sometimes they don't. Bears are dangerous in different ways. They're not usually hunting humans, but they're territorial and unpredictable. A bear that feels threatened or that's protecting cubs will attack viciously. They're enormously strong, capable of crushing bones with casual swipes. You're taught to back away slowly, avoid eye contact, make yourself non-threatening. It works sometimes. Other times the bear charges anyway, and then you're running, scrambling up trees, doing anything to get away from those teeth and claws. Wolves and wild dogs hunt in packs with frightening intelligence. They test defenses, probe for weakness, coordinate attacks. A single wolf you might drive off. A pack is a serious threat. They're not afraid of fire the way some animals are. They're cautious around it, but hunger makes them bold. You've spent nights with packs circling your camp, weighing the risk, deciding whether attacking is worth it. The stress of those nights is indescribable. Every sound makes you jump. Every shadow seems to be moving closer. You're gripping your spear, ready to fight, knowing if they come in numbers you're probably going to die. Smaller predators are less likely to kill you but can still cause serious harm. Badgers, wolverines, wild boars. These animals are aggressive when cornered. You're out gathering and you stumble across a boar with young. It doesn't run. It charges, squealing, tusks flashing. You're running, dodging, trying to get to a tree to climb. The boar is fast and determined. You barely escape, heart hammering, legs shaking. The encounter lasted seconds, but it's burned into your memory. Proof that danger comes in all sizes. Venomous creatures are harder to defend against. You can't outrun them or intimidate them. You just have to avoid them, which is difficult when they're camouflaged. Scorpions hide in rocky areas. Spiders lurk in dark corners. Snakes blend into their surroundings. You're constantly careful about where you sit, where you reach, where you step. But you can't catch everything. Sometimes you get stung or bitten despite your caution, and then you're at the mercy of how much venom was injected and how your body responds. Parasitic infections from insect bites cause chronic problems. Something burrows under your skin, laying eggs or creating a home. You've got a moving lump under your skin that itches and hurts. You can feel it wriggling, which is horrifying beyond words. You're trying to squeeze it out, digging at it with a sharp stone, creating wounds that will scar. Sometimes you get it out. Sometimes it dies on its own and your body eventually absorbs it. Either way, it's a traumatic experience that makes you hyper-aware of every sensation on your skin afterwards. Infections from wounds are a constant concern. You're injured regularly, and every injury could become infected. You're watching wounds carefully, looking for redness, swelling, heat. When infection sets in, you're trying crude remedies, packing wounds with certain plants that seem to help, keeping them clean, which is nearly impossible given your living conditions. Mostly you're just hoping your immune system handles it, because if it doesn't, you're in serious danger with no effective treatment available. Chronic inflammation from repeated injuries and infections causes long-term problems. Your body is constantly fighting something, always in a state of low-level immune response. This contributes to early aging, to joint problems, to a general feeling of unwellness that never goes away. You're not acutely sick, but you're not healthy either. You're somewhere in between, functional but compromised, carrying damage that accumulates over time. Malnutrition weakens everything. Your immune system, your bones, your muscles, your cognitive function. You're not getting enough calories, not enough variety and nutrients. Your body is rationing resources, shutting down non-essential functions. Your hair thins and becomes brittle. Your nails develop ridges and break easily. Your skin doesn't heal as quickly. You're tired all the time, not from exertion, but from your body operating at a deficit. It's a slow degradation that you barely notice because it happens gradually. But comparing yourself to what you were years ago reveals shocking decline. Vitamin deficiencies cause specific problems. Your gums bleed easily because you're not getting enough of certain nutrients. Your night vision deteriorates. Your bones ache. You develop skin rashes that won't heal. Each deficiency has symptoms, but you don't know what vitamins are or which foods contain them. You just suffer the symptoms and attribute them to general hardship, not realizing that specific dietary changes could help. The knowledge doesn't exist in your world. Mineral deficiencies are equally problematic. Your teeth deteriorate faster because you're not getting enough calcium. Your muscles cramp because your electrolytes are off. Your energy is low because you're not getting enough iron. These problems compound over time, creating a cascade of issues that make survival even harder. Your body is cannibalizing itself, pulling resources from wherever it can to keep critical systems running. The lack of variety in your diet means you're missing essential nutrients that humans need. You're eating meat when available, roots and plants when not, but you're not getting fruits regularly, not getting certain vegetables, not getting the range of foods that provide complete nutrition. Your diet is limited by season and availability, and it's never quite enough of everything. You're surviving, but not thriving, getting by on inadequate nutrition that slowly destroys your health. Oral health is a disaster that gets progressively worse. Your teeth are wearing down, developing cavities, getting infected. A tooth abscess is agonizing, a constant throbbing pain that radiates through your jaw and skull. The infection makes you feverish. Your face swells. You can't eat on that side, which means you're even more malnourished. The infection can spread to your brain or your blood, which can kill you. A dental problem that would be easily treated in the modern world becomes life-threatening here. Gum disease makes your teeth loose. You can feel them shifting in your jaw. Eventually they fall out, or you have to pull them yourself before the infection spreads. Each lost tooth makes eating more difficult. You're gumming food that should be chewed, swallowing chunks that are too large, struggling to get adequate nutrition from meals. By middle age, you've lost several teeth. By what passes for old age in Stone Age terms, your mouth is more gaps than teeth. Eating becomes a challenge that occupies increasing amounts of mental energy. Winter food sources are desperately limited. Most plants are dead or dormant. Animals are scarce, either hibernating or moved to areas where food is available. You're digging through snow looking for any vegetation that might still be edible. Tree bark becomes a staple, stripped off in sections and eaten despite tasting like slightly damp wood. It provides almost no nutrition, but it fills your stomach, giving the illusion of eating. You're chewing and chewing, working it into a paste that you can swallow, your jaw aching from the effort. Ice becomes a cutting hazard. Everything is coated in ice. Rocks, branches, the ground itself. You're slipping constantly, unable to get secure footing. Falls are frequent and painful. You slam down onto frozen ground that's hard as stone. The impact knocks the wind out of you, leaves you bruised and aching. You're moving carefully, testing each step, but you still fall. Your knees and hips are constantly bruised from impacts. Your hands are scraped from catching yourself. The whole world has become hostile and treacherous. Blizzards trap you in your shelter for days at a time. You can't go out. Visibility is zero. The wind would freeze you solid within hours. So you're stuck inside, huddled together, rationing whatever food you have, keeping the fire going, trying not to think about how hungry you are. The shelter feels smaller each day. The same faces, the same tiny space, the same nothing to do. You're going slightly mad from the confinement, but venturing out would be suicide. So you wait and hope the storm breaks before your supplies run out. Avalanches are a danger in mountainous areas. The snow builds up on slopes, unstable, waiting for the right trigger. A loud noise, a change in temperature, someone walking across it. Suddenly the whole slope is moving, tons of snow sliding downward with terrifying speed. If you're caught in it, you're buried. The group digs frantically, trying to find you before you suffocate. Sometimes they succeed, often they don't. Bodies are recovered in spring when the snow melts, frozen in whatever position they died, a grim reminder of winter's power. Famine sets in when food runs out completely. The group has eaten everything. There's nothing left. You're starving, truly starving, your body consuming itself. You're weak, dizzy, your thoughts foggy. You're lying down most of the time because you don't have energy to move. Conversation stops because talking takes energy no one has. You're all just waiting, hoping someone finds food, knowing that if they don't, this is how it ends. Some groups survive these periods, some don't. It's arbitrary and cruel. Cannibalism is a taboo, but it happens in the most desperate circumstances. Someone dies, and the group is faced with a choice. Let the body go to waste, or use it to survive. We won't dwell on details, but understand that desperation pushes people past boundaries they thought were absolute. The psychological damage from crossing that line is profound. Survivors carry the guilt and horror forever. It changes you in ways you can't undo. Most groups never face this choice, but some do, and those who survive are haunted by what they did. Spring brings relief, but also new challenges. The thaw turns everything to mud. Frozen ground becomes soggy and unstable. Rivers flood, swollen with meltwater, dangerous to cross. You're slogging through mud that's ankle deep, sometimes knee deep, every step an effort. Your legs are caked in cold, wet mud. Your feet make obscene sucking sounds with each step. Progress is slow and exhausting, but at least it's warmer. At least plants are starting to grow again. The worst is over until next winter. Early spring food is scarce but starting to appear. You're looking for the first shoots of plants, tiny green things pushing up through soil. They're bitter and not very filling, but they're fresh food after months of stored meat and bark. You eat them eagerly, grateful for anything that's not dried and tough. Your stomach sometimes rebels against the sudden introduction of fresh vegetation after months without, giving you cramps and sending you to the bushes. But it's worth it for the taste of something green. Flooding disrupts camps and forces relocations. You wake up and there's water flowing through your shelter. The river has overflowed, spreading out across the floodplain, and your camp is in its path. You're grabbing what you can carry and running for higher ground. Everything left behind is swept away or ruined. Your shelter, your stored food, your carefully gathered firewood, all gone. You're starting over from nothing. Again, building a new shelter in a new location, gathering new supplies. It's demoralizing, But there's no choice. You rebuild, because the alternative is giving up. Insects emerge in spring with a vengeance. Flies hatch in enormous numbers. Mosquitoes swarm in clouds. Every water source becomes breeding ground for biting insects. You're covered in bites within minutes of being outside. You're slapping at yourself constantly, but it's futile. There's too many of them. They get in your eyes, your nose, your ears. You're breathing them in. They crawl on your food. The constant harassment drives you to distraction, but there's no escape. They're everywhere, and they'll be everywhere until cold weather returns. Plant growth accelerates and suddenly there's food. Edible plants are sprouting, leafing out, flowering. You're gathering constantly, trying to take advantage of the abundance while it lasts. You're eating better than you have in months. Your stomach is fuller. Your energy improves. The group's mood lifts. People talk more, laugh occasionally. The oppressive weight of near starvation lifting. It won't last forever. You know that. But right now, things are better, and you allow yourself to feel something approaching contentment. Animals return or emerge from hibernation. Game is available again. Hunting is productive. The group brings back meat regularly. You're eating well, really eating, not just surviving. Your body starts to recover from winter's deprivation. You put on a little weight. Your strength improves. You feel almost human again. The relief is immense. You've survived another winter, which was never guaranteed. You're still here. That counts for something. Summer brings heat and different challenges. The relentless sun beats down. You're seeking shade during the hottest part of the day, conserving energy, avoiding exertion that would lead to heat exhaustion. Water sources start to dry up as the season progresses. Streams become trickles. Ponds shrink to muddy puddles. You're walking further to find water, carrying it back in inadequate containers, rationing it carefully. Drought is a serious threat. If water sources dry up completely, the group has to relocate. You're abandoning your established camp, your shelter, your territory, and moving toward water. This is dangerous. You're entering unfamiliar areas, potentially someone else's territory. Conflict with other groups are likely, but the alternative is dying of thirst, so you move. The journey is exhausting. Everyone burdened with supplies, children and elders struggling, the whole group vulnerable while in transit. Wildfires are catastrophic. A lightning strike ignites dry vegetation and suddenly there's flames, spreading fast, consuming everything in their path. You're running, trying to stay ahead of the fire, breathing smoke, eyes streaming. The heat is intense even at a distance. You can hear the roar of flames, trees exploding from the heat. You're fleeing in panic, carrying nothing, focused only on escape. If you're lucky, you outrun it. If not, you die, burned alive or suffocated by smoke. Fires reshape the landscape, destroying familiar territory, forcing relocations, adding one more disaster to the list of things that can kill you. The psychological weight of constant survival crushes any sense of purpose beyond mere existence. You're not building anything lasting. You're not creating art or advancing knowledge or making the world better. You're just not dying. That's your achievement. Each day you don't die is a success. It's a depressingly low bar, and yet it's difficult to meet. You feel hollow inside, going through motions that have no meaning beyond keeping your body alive for another day, and then another, in an endless chain of joyless survival. The absence of personal growth is stifling. You're not developing as a person. You're not learning new skills beyond basic survival tasks. You're not exploring ideas or challenging yourself intellectually. You're stagnant, locked into a pattern of repetitive behavior that requires no thought or growth. The person you are today is the person you'll be in 10 years, just older and more damaged. There's no trajectory, no arc to your life, just a flat line of existence until it ends. Relationships lack depth because everyone's too exhausted and stressed for emotional intimacy. You're all suffering together but separately, each person locked in their own struggle. There's camaraderie in shared hardship, but it's not the same as genuine connection. You don't have deep conversations about feelings or thoughts. You don't share vulnerabilities. You present a tough exterior because showing weakness could affect your standing in the group. Everyone's wearing masks, pretending to cope, and no one really knows anyone else beyond surface level. The loss of individuality is perhaps the saddest aspect. You're not a unique person with distinct traits and preferences. You're a survival unit. Your likes and dislikes are irrelevant. Your personality is compressed down to a few basic characteristics. Are you a good hunter? Are you reliable? Do you pull your weight? Those are the only questions that matter. Everything else, the complexity that makes you human, is stripped away as unnecessary. You're simplified, reduced, made generic by the demands of survival. Dreams of a better life fade because there is no better life. This is it. This is as good as it gets. The realization settles over you gradually, a heavy blanket of despair that you can't shake off. You're not working toward anything. You're not sacrificing now for rewards later. There is no later, not in any meaningful sense. Just more of this, forever, until you die. The lack of hope is suffocating, a weight on your chest that makes breathing difficult even when you're physically fine. Moments of beauty become almost painful. A spectacular sunset, a perfect dawn, a rare, peaceful moment by the river. These things are beautiful, but they highlight the contrast with your daily misery. You can't enjoy beauty because it reminds you of everything you're missing. It emphasizes the harshness of your existence. So you learn not to notice, not to feel, not to be moved by beauty because feeling it hurts too much. Numbness is a defense mechanism that develops over time. You stop feeling as deeply. Pain is just pain, constant and ignorable. Hunger is just hunger, always there in the background. Fear is chronic, baseline, not worth remarking on. You're emotionally flattened, operating on autopilot, disconnected from your experiences even as you live through them. It's a form of dissociation, a way to protect your mind from the relentless trauma of this life. But it also means you're not fully present, not fully alive in any meaningful way. The knowledge that modern humans couldn't survive this becomes crystal clear. Everything about modern life has made us soft, specialized, dependent on systems we don't understand. Take away electricity, plumbing, medicine, agriculture, shelter, clothing, tools, all the infrastructure of civilization, and we're helpless infants. We don't know how to do anything practical. We can't identify edible plants. We can't start fires. We can't make tools. We can't hunt. We can't navigate. We can't even tolerate minor discomfort without complaining. Modern humans are physically unprepared for Stone Age life. We're weak from sedentary lifestyles. Our feet are soft from always wearing shoes. Our hands are uncalloused from never doing manual labor. We're overweight or underweight, rarely at optimal fitness. We have untreated vision problems, dental issues, minor health conditions that are managed with medication. Strip away our supports and we're immediately in crisis. We'd be injured within hours, sick within days, dead within weeks.